An absolutely devastating experience, I have to say.
Everybody says that.
I know, everyone says that. I fell into the deepest depression.
In December 1988, a SWAT team surrounded a Malibu mansion. Inside, one of Hollywood's biggest stars sat handcuffed, while his superstar wife fled bleeding to a sheriff's station. The world thought it knew what happened that night, but 36 years later, the truth is far more complicated than anyone imagined. What really destroyed the most explosive marriage of the 1980s? And why did Madonna later defend the man she once accused? Stay with us to know. The wedding that shocked Hollywood. It was August 16, 1985, a clifftop estate overlooking the Pacific Ocean in Malibu, California. The sun is setting over the water, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. And somewhere between 6 and 10, news helicopters are circling overhead like vultures, their rotors drowning out the wedding vows below. This was the day Madonna Louise Ciccone married Sean Justin Penn. She was turning 27 years old, he was 25. And together, they were about to become the most talked-about couple in the world. They were young, they were beautiful, they were at the absolute peak of their fame, and they had no idea what they were getting into. The chaos started before the ceremony even began. Word had leaked that the biggest pop star on the planet was getting married to Hollywood's hottest young actor. The media went absolutely insane. Sean Penn was furious. This was supposed to be his wedding day, not a media circus. This was supposed to be a private moment between him and the woman he loved. Instead, it felt like the whole world was watching. So he did what Sean Penn does. He grabbed a marker and walked down to the beach, right there in the sand. In letters big enough for the helicopters to read, he wrote 2 words: "Back off." Andy Warhol was there that day. The legendary artist, the man who had seen everything, looked up at the helicopters circling overhead and said it reminded him of a scene from Apocalypse Now. He was not exaggerating. The noise was deafening. The chaos was complete. And somewhere in the middle of it all, 2 people were trying to get married. The guest list read like a who's who of 1980s celebrity culture. Tom Cruise showed up looking like a movie star. So did Cher, dripping with glamour. Christopher Walken was there with his intense stare. Diane Keaton came dressed impeccably. Carrie Fisher attended fresh off her Star Wars fame. Martin Sheen, Sean's own father, watched his son take his vows while helicopters thundered overhead like something out of one of his Vietnam movies. Madonna's brother Christopher was there too, watching his sister marry this intense young actor. Years later, he would look back on that day and say something chilling. "All the craziness that went on at the wedding," he said, "I think it may have been a bad omen for the future." The helicopters, the chaos, the anger, it was all a preview of what was to come. He had no idea how right he was. The couple had met just 7 months earlier. In January 1985, Madonna was filming her now legendary Material Girl music video on a soundstage in Los Angeles. Sean was visiting a former assistant who worked on the production. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever. The moment he saw Madonna, something clicked. The attraction was immediate and electric. Madonna noticed him too. And she did something bold. Something that showed exactly who she was. Within weeks, they were dating seriously. Within months, they were engaged. And by August, they were married on that chaotic clifftop while helicopters circled overhead like sharks smelling blood. The producer of the Material Girl video later said in a documentary that Madonna was genuinely in love with Sean. But here is what nobody at that wedding understood. Behind Sean Penn's brooding good looks and intense gaze was a volcano waiting to erupt. The ink on their marriage certificate was barely dry when Sean Penn committed his first act of violence as a married man. And what happened next would set the tone for the next 4 terrifying years. The violence begins. In June 1985, in Nashville, Tennessee, the summer heat was oppressive. But that was nothing compared to the heat that Sean Penn was about to bring. He and Madonna had been married for less than a year. They were supposed to be in their honeymoon phase, that magical time when everything is perfect and the future seems bright. Instead, Sean was about to show the world exactly who he really was beneath that handsome exterior. Two British journalists spotted the couple walking through town and did what journalists do. They pulled out their cameras and started taking photographs. It was the price of fame. It was something every celebrity dealt with on a daily basis. But Sean Penn did not see it that way. He did not appreciate the intrusion into his private moment. What happened next shocked everyone who witnessed it. Sean picked up a rock and attacked them. The incident made headlines on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Penn was fined $100 and walked away. $100. That was the price of his rage. This was just the beginning. The rock in Nashville was only the first chapter in a long story of violence that would define their marriage. In January 1986, the couple traveled to Macau to film a movie called Shanghai Surprise. The film was produced by none other than George Harrison, the former Beatle, the quiet one from the greatest band in history. And what Harrison witnessed during that production would stay with him forever. It would change his opinion of Sean Penn completely. According to reports that circulated throughout the industry, Sean Penn allegedly dangled a photographer over a 9th-floor balcony. Let that sink in for a moment. 9 stories up, almost 100 feet above the ground. All because he took some pictures of a celebrity couple. All because he was doing his job. George Harrison, a man who had dealt with Beatles mania and screaming fans and photographers his entire adult life, was appalled. He later described Sean Penn with a phrase that became famous. Penn's behavior was making the film impossible to promote. The movie itself was a complete disaster. Shanghai Surprise had a budget of $17 million, which was a significant amount in 1986. It earned just $2.2 million at the box office. That is a loss of almost $15 million. Madonna won the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Actress, a humiliation for someone who was used to winning everything. But Sean was not done with violence, not even close. In June 1986, he walked into a Los Angeles nightclub called Helena's. It was a trendy spot, the kind of place where celebrities went to be seen. A songwriter named David Walensky was there that night, enjoying himself, having a good time. He made the mistake of saying goodnight to Madonna. That is all he did. He said 2 words, "Good-night." Sean Penn attacked him. Right there in the club, in front of dozens of witnesses, he assaulted a man for the crime of being polite to his wife. Walensky had not flirted with her. He had not touched her. He had simply acknowledged her existence with a friendly farewell. And for that, he was beaten by one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Penn was arrested, charged with assault, and sentenced to 1 year of probation. The pattern was becoming terrifyingly clear to everyone watching. His jealousy was all-consuming, like a fire that could not be extinguished. His rage was uncontrollable, erupting without warning. And Madonna was trapped in the middle of it all, watching her husband destroy himself and their marriage one violent incident at a time. Then came April 1987. Sean was working on the set of a film called Colors, a gritty drama about Los Angeles gang violence. During production, something happened that pushed him over the edge again. He punched an extra, not an actor, not a crew member who had given him trouble, an extra, someone who was basically background decoration in the scene. This time, the consequences were real and serious. Sean Penn was sentenced to 60 days in county jail. He served 33 of them behind bars. One of Hollywood's most promising young actors, married to the biggest pop star in the world, sitting in a cell like a common criminal because he could not control his fists. The headlines were brutal, the embarrassment was total. While her husband sat in jail, staring at concrete walls instead of movie cameras, Madonna had to ask herself some very hard questions. Who was this man she had married? Was this really the love story she had imagined when she hand-delivered that rose on the set of Material Girl? Was this the future she wanted for herself? In December 1987, Madonna made a decision that seemed to answer those questions. She filed for divorce. The papers were submitted to the court. The marriage was officially over. It seemed like the nightmare was finally ending. But then, something happened that nobody expected. 2 weeks later, Madonna withdrew the divorce petition. She changed her mind. She decided to give Sean another chance. It was a decision that would haunt her forever. Because what happened next, on the night of December 28, 1988, would become one of the most controversial and disputed incidents in the entire history of celebrity marriages. The night everything changed. It was December 28, 1988, the holiday season. Christmas decorations still hung in windows across America. It was supposed to be a time for family, for celebration, for peace and goodwill. But inside the Penn mansion in Malibu, overlooking that same Pacific Ocean where they had been married 3 years earlier, there was no peace. There was only terror. What exactly happened that night has been debated for over 3 decades. The original police reports have been destroyed according to California's standard record retention policies. According to biographers who cited police sources before the records were destroyed, the allegations were absolutely horrific. Sean Penn allegedly bound Madonna to a chair with heavy twine, the kind of rope that would leave marks on skin. He allegedly threatened to cut off her hair, that famous blonde hair that was part of her identity. He allegedly drank liquor straight from the bottle while the alleged abuse continued for hours. Hour after hour of terror in their own home. A lieutenant who worked at that station later spoke to biographers about what he saw when Madonna walked through those doors. His words were devastating and unforgettable. "I hardly recognized her as Madonna," he said. "This was one of the most famous women in the world, and he almost did not know who she was. She was weeping uncontrollably. Her lip was bleeding, and she had obviously been struck." The biggest pop star on the planet looked like a victim of domestic violence because that is exactly what she was claiming to be. Back at the mansion, the situation was escalating rapidly. Sean Penn had returned from his liquor run to find his wife gone. The restraints were empty. Madonna had escaped. When authorities arrived at the property, Penn refused to cooperate. He would not come outside. He would not answer their questions. And then things got very serious, very fast. In 2024, more than 35 years later, Sean Penn gave an interview to the New York Times where he finally confirmed what happened next. His words painted a picture that was almost unbelievable. A SWAT team stormed his house. Not regular police officers with badges and handcuffs. A fully armed tactical team, the kind they send for hostage situations and terrorist threats, came to arrest a movie star in Malibu. Penn described the scene in his own words, with a strange calmness that was almost disturbing. "I said I am not coming out," he recalled. "I am going to finish my breakfast. Can you imagine that? A SWAT team outside your house, and you are focused on your eggs and toast." The next thing I knew, windows were being broken all around the house, and they came in. They had me in handcuffs. Madonna filed a complaint against Sean that night. She went on the record with her allegations. And then, approximately 1 week later, something unexpected happened. Madonna withdrew her complaint. She took it all back. She dropped everything. No charges would be filed, no trial would take place, no testimony would be given under oath. Whatever happened in that house on December 28, 1988, would remain officially unresolved, lost to history and speculation forever. But Madonna was done with the marriage, even if she would not pursue criminal charges. On January 5, 1989, just over a week after that terrible night, she filed for divorce again. This time, she would not withdraw it. This time, there would be no second chances. She cited irreconcilable differences as the reason. The divorce was finalized in September 1989, and one of the most turbulent marriages in Hollywood history officially came to an end. After 4 years of chaos and violence and headlines, the marriage of Madonna and Sean Penn was officially over. The world assumed they would never speak again. The world assumed Madonna would spend the rest of her life denouncing the man who had put her through so much pain and fear. The world assumed this was the end of their story. The world was completely wrong, because 26 years later, Madonna would do something that shocked everyone who remembered those terrible headlines. She would stand up in court and defend Sean Penn, and what she said under oath would change everything people thought they knew about their marriage. The stunning legal defense. The year was 2015. More than a quarter century had passed since that terrible night in Malibu. Madonna had become a living legend, the queen of pop with a career spanning 4 decades. Sean had won 2 Academy Awards and established himself as one of the finest actors of his generation. They had both moved on. They had both rebuilt their lives. But the allegations from 1988 had never gone away. Everyone knew the story, or at least they thought they did. Sean Penn beat Madonna. Then a filmmaker named Lee Daniels opened his mouth and changed everything. Daniels was the creator of Empire, one of the biggest television shows in America at the time. He was also publicly defending an actor named Terrence Howard, who had admitted in interviews to hitting his ex-wife. When asked about Howard's behavior in an interview, Daniels made a comparison that would land him in serious legal trouble. He said Howard had not done anything different than Marlon Brando or Sean Penn. Sean Penn was absolutely furious when he heard about this comparison. He had spent years trying to move past those allegations. He had built a reputation as a serious actor and humanitarian. And now a television producer was casually comparing him to an admitted abuser on national media. Penn did what he had to do. He filed a $10 million defamation lawsuit against Lee Daniels. The lawsuit claimed that Daniels had damaged his reputation by repeating false allegations of domestic violence. And here is where the story takes its most unexpected and dramatic turn. Madonna submitted a sworn legal declaration in support of Sean Penn. Not against him. For him. She was defending the man that everyone believed had abused her. The woman who had fled bleeding to a police station was now standing up in court for her alleged abuser. The woman who had accused him of unspeakable acts in 1988 now wanted to help him win a lawsuit. It was one of the most shocking moments in celebrity legal history. Her words in that declaration were absolutely stunning. "Sean has never struck me," she wrote under oath. "He has never tied me up. He has never physically assaulted me. And any report to the contrary is completely outrageous, malicious, reckless, and false." She went even further in her statement. "While we certainly had more than one heated argument during our marriage," she wrote, "Sean has never struck me. Not once. Not ever." Madonna described Sean as a caring and compassionate individual. These were words that nobody expected to hear. This was the same man she had fled from in terror. The same man who had been handcuffed by a SWAT team in his own kitchen. The same man whose explosive rage had made headlines around the world. And now his ex-wife was calling him caring and compassionate. What was going on here? The questions came flooding in from every direction. Had Madonna been lying back in 1988 when she went to that sheriff's station? Was she lying now under oath in a legal proceeding? Had she forgiven Sean so completely that she was willing to rewrite history? Or was there something more complicated happening beneath the surface, something that outsiders could never fully understand? The lawsuit was settled in May 2016. Lee Daniels issued a public apology to Sean Penn, acknowledging that he should not have made those comparisons. He also made a donation to Penn's Haiti charity, a foundation dedicated to helping the island nation recover from devastating earthquakes. The case was closed. Sean Penn had won, but the questions remained, and they remain to this day. Why would Madonna defend a man who had allegedly terrorized her? Why would she put her own credibility on the line to support his lawsuit? Why would she risk being called a liar to help her ex-husband? The answer might lie in what happened between them after the divorce was finalized. Because while the world saw bitter enemies who would never reconcile, something very different was developing behind closed doors. The love that never died. In 1991, just 2 years after their divorce was finalized, Madonna released a documentary called Truth or Dare. The film followed her on the Blonde Ambition World Tour and showed a more personal and vulnerable side of the pop superstar than audiences had ever seen before. At one point in the documentary, someone asked her a simple but loaded question: who was the love of your life? Madonna did not hesitate for even a second. She did not name some new boyfriend she was seeing. She did not dodge the question with a joke. She did not say she had never really been in love. She looked directly at the camera with complete sincerity and said one word: Sean, the man she had fled from just 2 years earlier, the man whose rage had made international headlines, the man she would later defend in court against abuse allegations. He was still, even after everything they had been through, the love of her life. It was a confession that stunned audiences around the world. Over the years that followed, their friendship grew stronger and more public. They started appearing at each other's events and charity functions. They spoke warmly about each other in interviews. The hatred and bitterness that everyone expected to see simply never materialized. Instead, there was something that looked a lot like affection. In 2016, their reconnection became public in the most dramatic way possible. Sean Penn hosts an annual gala in Los Angeles to raise money for Haiti relief efforts. His charity has raised millions of dollars to help rebuild the Caribbean nation after devastating natural disasters. That year, Madonna was one of the featured performers at the event. She took the stage in front of hundreds of wealthy donors and celebrities and performed La Vie en Rose, the classic French love song about seeing life through rose-colored glasses. Then she stopped singing and addressed Sean directly, right there in front of the entire audience, with cameras recording everything. "I love you," she said to her ex-husband. "From the moment I laid eyes on you on that soundstage back in 1985, and I still love you just the same all these years later. I just wish you would stop smoking so many cigarettes." The crowd went absolutely wild. Here was Madonna, the queen of pop, publicly declaring her ongoing love for her ex-husband, the man that the entire world believed had abused her, and she was doing it with a smile on her face and warmth in her voice. Later that same year, in December 2016, Madonna attended another charity event in Miami. Sean Penn was there too, and what happened next became instant celebrity news that spread across every tabloid and entertainment website in the world. Sean jokingly handcuffed himself to Madonna on stage in front of everyone. Think about that symbolism for a moment. Let it really sink in. The man who was accused of tying her up and restraining her against her will was now playfully binding himself to her as a joke. And she was laughing. She was in on it. She found it funny. "The many moments that were our marriage," Madonna quipped to the audience as they stood there connected by handcuffs. The crowd roared with laughter. Then she did something even more shocking that made headlines everywhere. She offered to remarry Sean right there on the spot, in front of everyone. All someone had to do was bid $150,000 for her charity auction. "I am still in love with you," she declared to her ex-husband with what appeared to be complete sincerity. Sean agreed to the remarriage without hesitation. The audience gasped. For one brief, surreal moment, it seemed like the most turbulent celebrity marriage of the 1980s might actually be resurrected decades later. How did this remarkable transformation happen? How did a relationship that ended with SWAT teams and bleeding lips become a friendship filled with laughter and public declarations of love? Sean Penn himself finally provided some answers in recent interviews, and his words revealed something that nobody had ever really considered before. Sean Penn breaks his silence. For decades, Sean Penn rarely spoke publicly about his marriage to Madonna. When interviewers brought up the subject, he would deflect with a joke or change the subject entirely. The allegations from 1988 hung over him like a dark cloud that never quite went away. But he seemed determined not to address them directly, letting the mystery persist. Then, in 2024, everything changed. Sean Penn sat down for a revealing and candid interview with the New York Times. For the first time in years, he was willing to talk openly about his past, his mistakes, and his relationship with his famous ex-wife. When asked about Madonna, his answer was simple but unexpectedly powerful. "She is someone I love," he said without any hesitation. He went on to explain why their post-divorce friendship had been able to develop so quickly, something that had puzzled observers for years. "It turns out," he said thoughtfully, "it is a lot quicker to repair a friendship after divorce if there are not kids involved." The interviewer asked Penn about the most persistent and damaging rumor from his marriage, the one about a baseball bat. For years, there had been allegations floating around that Sean had beaten Madonna with a baseball bat during one of their fights. It was one of the most disturbing claims from their marriage, and it had followed him for decades. Sean's response was unexpected and strangely logical. He did not get angry and storm out of the interview. He did not refuse to answer. Instead, he made a darkly humorous observation that cut right to the heart of the matter. "If I hit Mike Tyson in the head with a baseball bat," he said calmly, "he is going to the hospital." His point was clear and hard to argue with. If he had actually beaten someone with a baseball bat, there would have been serious and undeniable physical evidence. There would have been hospital records and medical reports. There would have been photographs of severe injuries. There would have been something more substantial than just allegations that were later completely withdrawn. In May 2025, Sean appeared on a podcast with the British documentary filmmaker Louis Theroux. The conversation was wide-ranging and personal. At one point, the interviewer brought up something Madonna had said years earlier. She had called Sean the love of her life multiple times over the years. How did that make him feel to hear? "It is very sweet," Sean said with what seemed like genuine warmth. "She has been a good friend for a lot of years now." He reflected on their short but intense marriage with surprising honesty and self-awareness. "It did not take us long to realize that we had mistaken a good first date for a wedding partner," he admitted. "They had fallen in love too fast. They had married too quickly. They had confused chemistry for compatibility." But then he added something important that showed growth and perspective. "I have a lot of fond memories from that time. It is not all jail." That last line was classic Sean Penn. Self-deprecating humor about his own criminal record. Awareness of his own troubled history. Acknowledging the darkness of those years while also claiming that something good had existed in the wreckage. He also revealed exactly how quickly they had reconciled after the divorce was finalized. "It did not take us long to recover after we got divorced," he said. "Maybe a year, in a friendship." In 2024 and 2025, a documentary called Becoming Madonna was released on the Sky Network. It covered her incredible rise to fame from 1978 to 1992, the years when she transformed from an unknown dancer in New York City to the biggest pop star on the planet. The documentary used archival audio recordings and vintage footage from that era. It included interviews with people who knew her during those transformative years. The documentary did feature Madonna's late brother Christopher, who passed away in October 2024. He appeared through archival footage that had been recorded years earlier, reflecting on the chaotic wedding and how all that craziness might have been a bad omen for what was to come. 36 years after their divorce was finalized, Madonna and Sean Penn remain connected to each other, not as the bitter enemies that the world expected them to become, but as something more complex, more nuanced, and ultimately more human. Two people who fell in love too fast and too young, who burned too bright and too hot, who caused each other tremendous pain and fear, and who somehow found their way back to friendship on the other side. What are your thoughts on Madonna and Sean's story? Share in the comments.